Albert Einstein was born in Ulm, in the Kingdom of Württemberg in the German Empire, on 14 March 1879 into a family of secular Ashkenazi Jews. His parents were Hermann Einstein, a salesman and engineer, and Pauline Koch. In 1880, the family moved to Munich, where Einstein's father and his uncle Jacob founded Elektrotechnische Fabrik J. Einstein & C., a company that manufactured electrical equipment based on direct current. Albert attended a Catholic elementary school in Munich from the age of 5 for 3 years. At the age of 8, he was transferred to the Luitpold Gymnasium, now known as the Albert Einstein Gymnasium, where he received advanced primary and secondary school education until he left the German Empire 7 years later. In 1894, Hermann and Jacob's company lost a bid to supply the city of Munich with electrical lighting, because they lacked the capital to convert their equipment from the direct current standard to the more efficient alternating current standard. The loss forced the sale of the Munich factory. In search of business, the Einstein family moved to Italy, first to Milan and a few months later to Pavia. When the family moved to Pavia, Einstein, then 15, stayed in Munich to finish his studies at the Luitpold Gymnasium. His father intended for him to pursue electrical engineering, but Einstein clashed with the authorities and resented the school's regimen and teaching method. He later wrote that the spirit of learning and creative thought was lost in strict rote learning. At the end of December 1894, he traveled to Italy to join his family in Pavia, convincing the school to let him go by using a doctor's note. During his time in Italy, he wrote a short essay with the title On the Investigation of the State of the Ether in a Magnetic Field. Einstein excelled at math and physics from a young age, reaching a mathematical level years ahead of his peers. The 12-year-old Einstein taught himself algebra and Euclidean geometry over a single summer. Einstein also independently discovered his own original proof of the Pythagorean theorem at age 12. A family tutor, Max Talmud, says that after he had given the 12-year-old Einstein a geometry textbook, after a short time Einstein had worked through the whole book. He thereupon devoted himself to higher mathematics. Soon the flight of his mathematical genius was so high, I could not follow. His passion for geometry and algebra led the 12-year-old to become convinced that nature could be understood as a mathematical structure. Einstein started teaching himself calculus at 12, and as a 14-year-old, he says he had mastered integral and differential calculus. At age 13, when he had become more seriously interested in philosophy, Einstein was introduced to Kant's critique of pure reason. Kant became his favorite philosopher, his tutor stating, at the time he was still a child, only 13 years old, yet Kant's works, incomprehensible to ordinary mortals, seemed to be clear to him. In 1895, at the age of 16, Einstein took the entrance examinations for the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, later the Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule, ETH. He failed to reach the required standard in the general part of the examination, but obtained exceptional grades in physics and mathematics. On the advice of the principal of the Polytechnic School, he attended the Argovian Cantonal School Gymnasium in Aarau, Switzerland, in 1895 and 1896 to complete his secondary schooling. While lodging with the family of Professor Jost Winteler, he fell in love with Winteler's daughter, Marie. Albert's sister Ma later married Winteler's son Paul. In January 1896, with his father's approval, Einstein renounced his citizenship in the German Kingdom of Württemberg to avoid military service. In September 1896, he passed the Swiss Matura with mostly good grades, including a top grade of 6 in physics and mathematical subjects, on a scale of 1-6. At 17, he enrolled in the 4-year mathematics and physics teaching diploma program at the Federal Polytechnic School. Marie Winteler, who was a year older, moved to Olsberg, Switzerland, for a teaching post. Einstein's future wife, a 20-year-old Serbian named Mileva Maric, also enrolled at the Polytechnic School that year. She was the only woman among the 6 students in the mathematics and physics section of the teaching diploma course. Over the next few years, Einstein's and Marek's friendship developed into a romance, and they spent countless hours debating and reading books together on extracurricular physics in which they were both interested. Einstein wrote in his letters to Marek that he preferred studying alongside her. In 1900, Einstein passed the exams in maths and physics and was awarded the Federal Teaching Diploma. There is eyewitness evidence, and several letters over many years that indicate Marek might have collaborated with Einstein prior to his papers, known as the Annus Mirabilis papers, and that they developed some of the concepts together during their studies, although some historians of physics who have studied the issue disagree that she made any substantive contributions. Early correspondence between Einstein and Marek was discovered and published in 1987, which revealed that the couple had a daughter named Lieserl, born in early 1902 in Novi Sad, where Marek was staying with her parents. Marek returned to Switzerland without the child, whose real name and fate are unknown. The contents of Einstein's letter in September 1903 suggest that the girl was either given up for adoption or died of scarlet fever in infancy. Einstein and Marek married in January 1903. In May 1904, their son Hans Albert Einstein was born in Bern, Switzerland. Their son Edward was born in Zurich in July 1910. The couple moved to Berlin in April 1914, but Marek returned to Zurich with their sons after learning that despite their close relationship before, Einstein's chief romantic attraction was now his cousin Elsa Lowenthal. She was his first cousin maternally, and the second cousin paternally. They divorced on 14 February 1919, having lived apart for 5 years. As part of the divorce settlement, Einstein transferred his Nobel Prize fund to Marek when he won it. Edward had a breakdown at about age 20 and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. His mother cared for him, and he was also committed to asylums for several periods, finally being committed permanently after her death. In letters revealed in 2015, Einstein wrote to his early love Marie Winteler about his marriage and his strong feelings for her. He wrote in 1910, while his wife was pregnant with their second child, "I think of you in heartfelt love every spare minute and am so unhappy as only a man can be." He spoke about a misguided love and a missed life, regarding his love for Marie. Einstein married Elsa Lowenthal in 1919, after having a relationship with her since 1912. They emigrated to the United States in 1933. Elsa was diagnosed with heart and kidney problems in 1935 and died in December 1936. In 1923, Einstein fell in love with a secretary named Betty Newman, the niece of a close friend, Hans Mussum. In a volume of letters released by Hebrew University of Jerusalem in 2006, Einstein described about 6 women, including Marguerite Lebach, a blonde Austrian, Estella Katzenellenbogen, the rich owner of a florist business, Toni Mendel, a wealthy Jewish widow, and Ethel Michanowski, a Berlin socialite, with whom he spent time and from whom he received gifts while being married to Elsa. Later, after the death of his second wife Elsa, Einstein was briefly in a relationship with Margarita Konenkova. Konenkova was a Russian spy who was married to the noted Russian sculptor Sergei Konenkov, who created the bronze bust of Einstein at the Institute for Advanced Study at